Well, sunshine, today we're going to start testing thinned out rings, meaning taking off the inside circumference of the ring and thinning that down and lowering the ring tension. Last video we did one ring, single ring versus two rings on rings that were broke in. So we're going to test thinned out rings with gas ports on them, scalloped on top of the rings, thinned out ring without the gas port on top of the rings. The ones with the gas port on top of the rings is going to be with this old piston with a 1.2 millimeter. It's not 100% fair. We'll get into that in the video. I explain that all. I try not to make this too long. This video is going to be long as it is because there's a lot of information here. The 1.5 millimeter rings were the rings that we've been running in this all along, so they were the broken in rings. And then I also put in an old set of rings that were not broken in, that were not reduced. We're going to have parasitic drag, leak down test, compression test, and we're going to have a little bit of a cutting video. Now the cutting video is not, it's not for cutting necessarily, it's also for testing. It's got 28-inch bar on there. It's too much load for the saw. It's in over 28 inches of wood, but I wanted to load this saw heavy, and there's some information in there. It's not just all one cutting video. I show you the start and I show you the end, and I want you to pay attention to those cutting videos. There's two of them in there. The second one about breaks my heart, but regardless. Also, I'll mention, I was editing the video, I'll mention when I start that saw up in here, and a lot of times they're screaming at idle, and you see me pull out my screwdriver and adjust it real quick. That's not that it was that lean. I'm adjusting the high speed or the idle screw, because when I run that on my dyno, I turn that idle screw all the way up. That way it runs faster and cools off better. It just runs at a high idle on that dyno until it cools off. And then when I start it up in here, I usually not remember to turn it back down. But you will see a lean run. You will see a lean run in this video. That's not due to that, so I wanted to break that out. You'll see in that last cut I had to chase the tune a little bit. I think there's a reason for that. Guys, chime in, let me know what you think. And I do want to mention the thin rings on this 1.2 millimeter and the thin rings on the 1.5 millimeter are not the same composition of rings. The 1.5 millimeters are a lot softer. I noticed that when I went to thinning them. So everything's not 100% fair, and what I think it's going to make us want to do is have a second or another video on this. But I think we've got enough information here. We're going to start developing some theories. I want you guys to chime in because I don't know where we're going with this. I'm trying to find an answer, and I think I know where I'm looking, but I might be biased, and I try to, as unbiased as I try to stay, sometimes things make me wonder what's going on, and I'm not that good at this to know. Some of you guys might automatically know. So guys, enjoy this video. Jump in there, tell me what you think's going on with this saw. I'm trying to figure it out, and I think we've got some valuable information out of this. We got this little fixture going on here. We're going to test the leak down test on the original two rings that was on this saw. I've been getting about 7% leak down, which is very minimal. I gotta get this zeroed out here. We're zeroed out. This is two rings, the original rings that was on it. So let's see what kind of leak down we got. I can hear it, don't know if you guys can or not, but we're at about 7% leak down past two rings. So, and was it the same with just the single ring on top? Couldn't even tell the difference. Let's go to the two rings that are thinned down, see what we got. I expect we'll have more leak down. Now my fixture, like I say, it's just so I can do this without taking the saw apart, and I don't want the crankshaft moving, and I want to be able to hold this in a certain position. I don't necessarily care which position, just as long as it's inside, just as long as it's above the exhaust roof. And I'm a few thousandths, I'm a little bit off the top, which is just fine with me, as long as it's in the same place. And what I've got, you guys can see my fixture. Ain't no secrets here. And you can see my dirty, messy floor. We are not professionals here. We just experiment the crap out of things. Now what I've got is just a fixture here. I can put a piston on there and I can adjust this up and down. If I can get my goggles on, that piston pin will come out one way or another, not sure which yet. That's the piston that come out of the saw. That's a different piston. Here's the piston with the thinner rings on it. And I can just go from piston to piston and put that on there. Just that quick. I'll get this put down on there. I gotta oil this up just a little bit so it's the same as the other one. I smeared a little bit of oil. I don't like putting them together dry. I'll smear a little bit of oil and get this down on there and bolt it down. I'll bring you right back. Okay, let's see what we got. We should still be, we're a little bit higher than 0. We'll re-zero this. About 0, ain't it? Close enough for government work. Let's see where we're at on here. This is 2 thinned out rings. We got a little bit more leak down than we had before. We're up at about 12, 13, about 12%. We're just blowing right down by it. But I expect that to happen. I don't know if that's a bad. I know it's a bad thing, but I don't know that we're at the end of the world because how I done those rings. We're gonna put her together and see what we got. I'll show you those rings right quick. This top ring I took off about 15 thousandths. In between there and there, we're at about 58. We're at about 58 thousandths right there. And I also took, in equal distances, I put just a little bit of a groove right on top of the ring to let exhaust gases get in behind that ring and push it out. Bottom ring substantially similar, other than I didn't cut grooves in the top of that one. We're gonna put her together though and see how she acts. 26 rings, no break-in time, thin rings. Oh. Okay, real quick, we'll go over that dyno run we just saw. The red line is the thinned out rings on the gas ported rings that's on the timed piston. The single ring is the blue line. Single ring and the thin ring, 4.10 versus 4.13 corrected horsepower, which that seems pretty similar, but you can see the lines are way different because we lost max peak horsepower. We dropped 750 RPMs here. So we moved the torque range way down. Now that could be due to the timing on that piston. What we gained on the thin ring versus single ring, we gained a lot of torque on that dyno run. We went from 2.80 foot-pounds and it was also lower, but we were above it on torque from basically 9,300 on, let's say. So the twin thin rings did pick it up a little lower in the cut, probably as high as what this saw ever should have ran, but we're above it on the single ring here. So guys, sit there and study that chart what you want. We'll get back in the other and I'll bring you back to some more charts here in just a minute. Okay, here's what we got on measuring parasitic drag inside the engine. I've already done the single ring again since last time doing it with the vice grip, so we should have any inertia of the lever out of the system here. What I've got is I've got this timing wheel zeroed. Right here's my pointer. The best way I've found to do this is, like everybody knows, as that rod angle changes, that piston speeds up and slows down. So actually there's a mechanical advantage on that piston too, and I'm trying to use that to my advantage to measure this. because you have to overcome this static inertia of it not wanting to move, but then you want it to stop at some point, and you also want it to stop at a certain speed or within a certain amount of time, because in the last 5 minutes since it's hanging there, it's moved another 5 degrees. So this is just ever so slightly pulling it down. It's not quite that fast what I'm doing. See if I can zoom in. What I'm doing is I'm running this back to 45, and I'm counting in my head about 5 seconds, and I want it to be at 50. After about 5 seconds, if it's not to 50, I'll add more weight. Or if it's not moving, of course, I'll add more weight. And if it's past 50, I'll take off a little bit of weight just to speed it up. I think I've got this in here about figured out. So it'd be 1,001, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're right on the money right there. And if I hang just a little bit more weight, and it don't take much. 1, 2, 3. See, it headed at 50. It hit 50 at the count of 3, and that's only, we're dealing with pretty small stuff here. That's 17 grams. So that ain't much. We'll do this one more time. Make sure that's the weight I want to use. Get it to quit shaking. 1,001, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just maybe a smidge heavy. I think that's close enough to call it. It's pretty repeatable right there. Now here's how much weight it took. And I had this in here marked number 10. That's exactly what it took to do the single ring with nothing else. So actually the only thing I added to it was one thick washer. 35.32 grams difference of pull. Now when I put 2 full rings in there, I think we're going to see, I'm going to put these rings back on here, this piston and rings back on here, and we'll get that measurement here in just a second. So 35.31 grams difference in between a single ring and these thinned out rings. I'll bring it back when I got some more to show you. Just for reference, this is a piston I tried with thinned out rings, but the timing was way different on this. You can see I'd scalloped the corners of that due to where the transfers hit this piston in that other cylinder, the one this one came with. This was my first one. Transfers were cut out way below that, so I tapered that down, and we didn't have bad transfer timing on that cylinder. On this cylinder it stunk, and also my intake was as big as I wanted on that other cylinder, so I took some intake timing off the skirt. Well, when I put it in this cylinder, we went to 98 degrees exhaust, which was about the same as the other piston. 144 on the intake, 116 on transfers. That equals 18 degrees of blowdown. And we had 160 psi on the compression gauge at 12 pulls. Now, previous to that iteration, we were at 98 degrees, so same there. 68 and a half, 137. So we got 7 more degrees of intake timing, which might be too much, and also we had 120 degrees transfer, so that was about 22 degrees of blowdown there. This one here, we only had 18 degrees of blowdown. Yeah, 7 degrees of timing and lost 4 degrees of blowdown. So that very, very, very much could indicate why the horsepower curve changed where it did. So these rings started out at about 72, 73 thousandths, and I took them down to about 58 thousandths, so about 15 thousandths I took off of them. And the bottom ring I took a little bit more. I left the bottom ring probably 2 thousandths thinner than the top ring. In my mind, that one don't have to be as tight. And on the top ring, I don't know what you call it, I scalloped the top to let exhaust gas get in behind that ring and push that out. They sell rings like that. I thought, well, I'll just do it myself. So I think it's a good plan. This here's the, man, I'm torn. This here ring, I've got another set of rings here, but they've got a couple marks on them. This is the one where I ingested that piece of carbon out of my cylinder and scratched the heck out of it. I've kept them rings. I'm tempted to not ruin these rings because I can go back to them. But on the other hand, it's just a set of rings. Maybe I'll thin these down. Those are the ones we had. And I'll get a better measurement on pull down. I'll slide this in there right quick, get a measurement on that, drag, and then, yeah. I think that's what we're going to do. We're just trying to decide as we go along. My mind's tore up right now anyhow because I've been cutting carburetors in half too. That's another thing for this project. I think we can put this back half. If Stihl 026s don't have a choke in them, see, so you have to run that goofy air filter. I cut a carburetor in half, milled her out, and I think we can just put us a choke right there on that. I think we can put us a choke on that carburetor. And I've started working on a intake plenum for it. Oh, she's all, yeah, I don't know. I'm like a fart in a tornado. Just all over the place. We got 2 rings in, the standard 2 rings that we've been messing with this whole time. Again, we'll take that at 45 degrees, and we want it to take it approximately 5 seconds to get down to 50 degrees. And that's where I count 5 seconds to hit right there, was with this. Now, this has changed. Let me show you how much more we have to weigh to get on ground zero. If I can find a stack, there we go. That's how much more it took from the thin 2 ring to that. But there's standard 2 rings, and let's see what we weigh here. That may bottom out this little scale. I may have to go to the big side. For anybody trying to keep track at home, to do the math before I get to it, this stack, including this bent welding rod, weighs 476 grams, and this lever is 1.3 inches. That's overload right there. Let me go weigh that on my other gram scale. Be right back. This stack is 372 grams. I'm gonna have to, I don't write in my good book. I keep all this crap up there on the deal. It gets full of greasy fingerprints. But the thin rings was this stack plus 35 grams. The 2 full rings is this stack plus 372 grams. So there's quite a bit of difference there. We'll have to figure out what that equates to in horsepower. One of you guys can be doing that while I'm doing this other stuff. I'll save you guys all trial and error on this, so I have to go through each time. We're pretty close right here. This is back to the single ring, so we're going to remeasure those. 2, 3, 4, 5. About right in there, and it's repeatable. It keeps going there. So where's that at compared to where we were? Okay. We only had to add, this was the twin thin rings was right here. The single ring full is actually, I just lied to you. The thin ring was this plus 35 grams. The stack plus 35 grams. The 2 rings was the stack plus 372 grams. The single ring is the stack plus 51.2 grams. So my 2 thin rings actually had less drag than the 1 thick ring, which actually gives me subsequent room for, gives me cause for concern. I think I could stand a lot more drag than that. So I'll probably not thin these rings down as much, but I am going to thin them some. So let me do that. We'll see where we're at. Okay, we're going to thin the rings down a little bit. Right now I'm showing them to be 74 thousandths, 73 and a half, 74, 73, 75, So actually a standard ring, I guess, may not be that perfect. Now the other ones I went down to about 58 thousandths, and I think that was too much. There's more than I want to go on this one here anyhow. So I'll probably just only take 5 to 10 thousandths off this. We'll see where we wind up. Now I wouldn't what you'd call experienced this. I've done one. Them sanding discs work okay. I kind of don't mind this little cheap grinding rock that come with it. I do like putting it up on a board like this so I can hold my tool flat right here, and it don't work on the bench, see, because my ring won't touch it. So I can hold it up here and I can hold this level. And I just took my little cutoff wheel and 4.5 inch grinder, just cut me a little groove in there. I guess if the guy wanted to, he could make it where it was just the right depth where you couldn't go too deep, but I didn't do that. It's just to hold it, just to help me hold it a little bit. And depends on how hard a ring it is. They can go pretty fast and pretty slow. Well, it seems like these here is going to be pretty soft. We're already down to 70.5 thousandths there. 70.25 thousandths. 71 thousandths. 71. We've already took 2 thousandths off of it in just that little bit of time. So careful what you're doing. If you'll watch this, it's kind of spinning this ring, and I'm letting it spin, just holding just a little bit of tension on it. You can watch that end gap. I don't know if that helps or not. I've been, like I say, I ain't what you call good at this by no means, or experienced at it. We wound up to about 68 thousandths around there. Could have went a little bit less, could have went more, but that's where I got it about even, so I quit messing with it. Now I just got to break this edge. It leaves a little bit of a flashing inside or on the edges of that ring, so I just cut me another groove in here at an angle where I could lay that ring over and just let it just barely touch this grinding wheel to it, and it'll carry that, it'll feed that ring on around there. And break that edge pretty nice and even. I think that there will be ready to go in, unless we need to scallop that edge. I don't know. We lowered that tension quite a bit. We lowered that tension a bunch, even at 5 thousandths. So I think we're just going to do the other ring, let her bump. We'll get the jig set up here and we'll measure leak down. Put a little bit of oil on it. I ain't putting it together dry anyhow, and I've done all the other ones about the same, so we're trying to do everything just so. It's not scientific, but it's the best I can do. Well, I think we're set up. We'll get this leak down calibrated. We'll bring that up to about 0 right there. And this ain't no $15,000 gauge, so on them I tend to always flick at them a little bit. Alrighty, let's see what she says. We're at 9 to 10% leak down. I'd say it's 9%. You guys You guys can look at that. Depends on which way I twist it, but looking at it straight on, I can see the 10-degree line over it. So I'd say we're at 9%. We was at 7% before with 2 rings. So I lost a percent or so of blowdown or leak down. But I expected that. Now on the thin rings, I was up here. What was I? I can't remember, but I think I was up there around 15-16%. So considerably more. I got high hopes for this all of a sudden. I was feeling kind of bad about it. You know how you get exasperated, you expect something to be good, and it don't turn out like you want. You just want to take that daggum thing out there by the chain and beat it up against the fence post and say, well, if you ain't gonna work for me, you ain't gonna work for nobody. Yeah, I've got that kind of patience sometimes. But anyhow, we're gonna see. We're gonna put this back together and see what see what it takes to turn it over now. See if we lost anything. I know, like I say, we thinned down the rings a little bit. I know we lost something. Let's find out how much. Okay, 2 rings thinned down just a little bit. We did the leak down tech. Get down here where you guys have to look at me. I'll teach you. Ain't nothing in life free. If you want to see this stuff, you got to see me. Anyhow, 2 thin down rings. We didn't thin them down much, but we thinned them down. I'd say about right there. Let's see what we got in weight. I know we're going to be more than that little gram scale away, so you're going to have to just trust me on this and here. But there's how much we got. 5 big washers and that mess. 254 grams. And we'll run it a little bit and get a compression test on it and see where we're sitting at there and get a dyno test. So I think we're ready to stick her together. I was mad. Dadgum, I was mad. I sat there and did this a while ago, and it took more. There was more weight to take it than it did before I thinned the rings down. I was mad. I just ripped the thing apart. Said, that ain't right. We'll run her a while. I went to put the clutch on it, and the daggum chain brake was set and rubbing up against the. Oh, daggum! I'm telling you, I'm a hack. So, guys, you know, when you see me doing something wrong, just assume number 1, that's the best I can do, or number 2, I ain't thought of a better way yet, and chime in and let me know. Well, we'll try her again. She's liable to smoke. There we go. I think she'll run. We'll get some dyno runs, get her in the wood, see what we got, see if we gained anything. I hope we did. I got high hopes, but I don't know. Well, I'll run a tank through it right quick, so don't get too excited. I'm out of gasoline, so I'm running it on kerosene. It's hot outside, so the saw ain't gonna run very good. The wood's frozen. That's ironwood, hardest stuff known to man. My rakers are set too thin. My bucket dogs are too sharp. The sun was in my eyes when I sharpened the chain. Got my angles all wrong. Boy, if you guys could think up any more excuses I can use, drop them down there in the comments. scored the piston. Can't feel it, but I can see it. Same way inside the cylinder at the exhaust side. Probably can't see it. Maybe, I don't know. It's the fault of the Hylamar Blue. Actually, it's my fault. This stuff tells you to put it on there and just kind of snug it down and then go back and retorque it. I so used to the other, got out of the habit, didn't retorque it. Cylinder wasn't tight, sucked air, runner lean. Hopefully we didn't ruin it. Now if anybody ain't got dibs on the scored cylinder for an excuse, I got dibs now if you ain't already put it down there. And I checked the compression. I hadn't checked the compression yet because I wanted to run it first. I'm only at about 130, 140 pounds. So we're down below what either one of the two thin rings or the single ring was. We'll see if it'll come back up. We'll see. We'll start off, again, there's the chart we just seen, but I added the original baseline chart to it. The two broken end rings at the current configuration that the rest of everything's at, muffler and everything else. So you can see we're still below where we was at max, either with the single ring or the thinned rings. But we're over them in certain parts. The single ring, we remember that from the last video, we stretched out above it up here, which could make that saw seam to cut faster, and that's only like 0.2 of a horsepower difference there, which is a lot or not a lot, depends on how you look at it, I guess. It's all relative. Now here's the one we added after that cut. The yellow line down here, hopefully that shows up good on the video. The yellow line down here is the broken end rings that are thinned, non-gas ported, and I think they were detonating between the rings. Okay, I could hear it. Hopefully that come through on the video. It sounded like there was some pre-detonation going on, and we lost all across the board. The horsepower moved down or back up a little bit over what our lowest horsepower was on the thin gas ported timed rings, but we were down to 18 degrees of blowdown, and we put in 7 more degrees total intake timing. So everything's not quite fair. What that tells me is I think we need to gas port these rings. They were non-gas ported. See if we can get rid of that detonation. See if that's what's causing that detonation. That would be something neat to see. And I think what we're doing is we're putting heat in the bottom of that cylinder. I need to find, I'm going to pull up some stuff. In this next video, guys, I hate to drag stuff out, but it's where we're going to have to be to keep this video very, very reasonable. I'm going to have to do some more work, and that's going to be in the next video. Matter of fact, I've already done some, and we start seeing some stuff that's going to help even further make some determinations. But guys, I'm not done with that one yet, so if you guys will jump in on this one here and tell me what to look for, I can incorporate that into my tests. I've got another cylinder coming, another set of rings. I probably need to get a hold of Ryan at Wolf Creek Saws and see about getting some better rings and just a few sets of them. That way we can kind of compare apples and apples, so to say. So guys, I appreciate it. If I earned it, give it a thumbs up. If I didn't, don't. I appreciate it. If you guys watched either way, I appreciate it. Guys, have a good one.